This is a no-show news roundup, keeping you in the know. In our lead story, NSA spying extends to contents of domestic phone calls. The National Security Agency disclosed in a secret Capitol Hill briefing that thousands of analysts can listen to domestic phone calls. That authorization appears to extend to email and sexting too. NSA Director Keith Alexander says his agency's analysts take protecting, quote, civil liberties and privacy and the security of this nation to their heart every day. The National Security Agency has acknowledged in a new classified briefing that it does not need a court's authorization to listen to domestic phone calls. If the NSA wants to, quote, listen to the phone, an analyst's decision is sufficient, without any other legal authorization required. It also suggests the Justice Department determined federal surveillance law permits thousands of analysts access to eavesdrop on phone calls. Because the same legal issues that apply to phone calls also apply to emails, text messages, and instant messaging. Being able to listen to phone calls would mean the NSA analysts could also access the content of all internet communications, including, but not limited to, the servers of Facebook, Google, Apple, Skype, Yahoo, YouTube, AOL, and Microsoft. According to Bloomberg, this data is also shared with all your favorite private firms. The Washington Post disclosed Saturday that the top-secret NSA program, Nucleon, quote, intercepts telephone calls and routes the spoken words to a database. The Post reports top intelligence officials have, quote, refused to offer estimates about the number of Americans whose calls and emails may have made their way into the database. Earlier reports indicate that the NSA has the ability to record nearly all domestic and international phone calls, in case an analyst needs to access these recordings in the future. AT&T and other telecommunications companies that allow the NSA to tap their fiber links receive absolute immunity from civil liability or criminal prosecution, thanks to a law that Congress enacted in 2008 and renewed in 2012. It's a series of amendments to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. That law says surveillance may be authorized by the Attorney General and Director of National Intelligence without prior approval by the Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. A requirement of the 2008 law is that the NSA, quote, may not intentionally target any person known at the time of acquisition to be located within the United States. In interpreting that language, some legal experts say that the agency may vacuum up everything it possibly can domestically on the theory that indiscriminate data acquisition was not intended to target any specific American citizen. Director of National Intelligence Michael McConnell indicated during a House Intelligence hearing that the NSA's surveillance process involves, quote, billions of bulk communications being intercepted, analyzed, and incorporated into the database. They can be accessed by an analyst who is part of the NSA's, quote, workforce of thousands. If it were, quote, a U.S. person inside the United States, now that would stimulate the system to get a warrant, McConnell told the committee, quote, and that is how the process would work. Now, if you have foreign intelligence data, you publish it because it has foreign intelligence value. Former FBI counterterrorism agent Tim Clemente told CNN last month in national security investigations, the Bureau can access records of previously made telephone calls. Quote, all that stuff is being captured as we speak, whether we know it or like it or not. Wow! Fun stuff on the Hill and on your computer. Thanks to CNET.
Somebody's watching you. Somebody's watching you.
In other news, certain coffee beans are sold as gourmet coffee beans. They contain beans that have been swallowed by Asian civet cats. then recovered from their feces and washed. Internet news of Kona Luwak, as it's called, has blown up. And in April, the environmental activist website mongabay.com warned that based on increased demand, civet farms had sprung up throughout Indonesia, and civets were being caged for their entire lives solely for access to their food. While none of the main civet species are formally, quote, endangered, activists warned that populations are dwindling. One said that this, quote, is the most ridiculous threat to any wildlife I've seen yet.
That is some crappy coffee.
Thanks to Chuck Shepard.
Is this a spoiled, pampered, narcissistic Hollywood brat, or what?
In celeb news, Lindsay Lohan leaves Betty Ford. Lindsay Lohan has left the Betty Ford Clinic and is now at a new rehabilitation clinic in Malibu. Lohan reportedly checked out of Betty Ford on Wednesday and checked into Cliffside, Malibu, a luxurious facility that has breathtaking views of the Pacific Ocean, situated on 2 glorious acres. It boasts a pool, meditation gardens, and a professional chef. The move was allegedly approved by prosecutors, a judge, and Lohan's lawyer, all of whom agreed that Betty Ford is better for a 30-day program as opposed to the 90-day sentence that she is required to complete. A source told TMZ that it's doubtful Adderall is allowed at this center either. Lindsay had left Betty Ford because she's endured, quote, several problems while in lockdown since entering just over a month ago. Last month, Dinah Lohan said her daughter was doing, quote, great at Betty Ford. After she's done with her latest rehab stint, Lindsay is slated to appear at the Venice Film Festival on August 28th for the screening of her upcoming flick, The Canyons. Oh, Linz, we wish you the very best, but I guess BF ain't your BFF no more. Thanks to HuffPost Celebrity. A Seattle woman has reported that in May, she saw, and her husband briefly conversed with, a man operating a drone on the sidewalk. He was guiding the device just outside the 3rd floor window of a private home. The pilot said he was, quote, doing research, and he was protected by a 1946 U.S. Supreme Court decision. He asserted that he was not violating anyone's privacy because he himself was on a public sidewalk and the drone was in public airspace. The couple then called to request a police officer, but by the time one arrived, the pilot and his drone had gone. And finally, Pope Francis on Sunday blessed thousands of Harley-Davidsons and their riders as the American motorcycle manufacturer celebrated its 110th anniversary with a loud parade and plenty of leather. Thundering engines drowned out the recitation of the Our Father prayer in Latin that accompanied Francis as he greeted the crowd before Mass. In St. Peter's Square, tattooed bikers in leather vests sat alongside nuns and tens of thousands of faithful Catholics taking part in an unrelated 2-day pro-life rally, the centerpiece of which was this Mass. Francis addressed them both after Mass, giving a blessing to the, quote, numerous participants, keeping the faith full throttle. A. Smith Harrison reporting. 'Cause everything old is the news again.